Hello everybody and welcome to Against the Fence. This is the place to be if you're obsessed and passionate about the UFC, and I'm back with another TUF review, episode 9. It's semi-final time. Hope you're all doing well. Let's hear you if you are in the chats. But yeah, as I said before, it's semi-final time. We've got a lot that happened at the start of the episode, but without further ado, let's jump on in. So, obviously, as we can see down there, obviously this matchup was made in the previous episode, the week before this one. It was Austin Hubbard against Roosevelt Roberts. That was obviously already made, so that's why they're just there. So, throughout when I'm talking, I'm just going to leave them there. But to start the episode off, obviously, we've got the semi-final matchups, and they were introduced to the fighters when they entered the house, so they all must have come back from a training session. They all came in at once, and they were displayed on the board as soon as they come in, who is fighting who, and the most important thing as well, which could ruffle a few feathers, is whose team are they on, because obviously I mentioned before last week about it may get a disruptions, of course, with what fighter may go with what coach. And there was a few uproars because there was none of Team Chandler's guys wanted to go on Team Conor. Obviously, we have Roosevelt Roberts. He didn't want to go on there. We had Cody Gibson. He didn't want to go on there. Timur Valiev didn't want to go on there. So all of Chandler's guys that were meant to be going along and training with Team Conor, they didn't want to. And obviously, we all know there was one little guy in the bantamweight division that could not wait to take that Chandler jersey off and put the Team Conor jersey on, and that was Brad Katona. He could not wait to to put that Team Conor jersey on. Didn't hesitate to argue. He went straight over. So as I said, all of the Team Chandler guys did refuse to move over to Team Conor. So what happened was when, as we know, it's Roosevelt Roberts, against Austin Hubbard. They're obviously on the same team. So they had to go in separate areas of the training facility, and Chandler took a little bit of a step back. Obviously, fair play to him. They're both his guys. And they had two coaches of Team Chandler each. But what I will say is fair play to Chandler. He was present. He was there. He just wasn't getting involved. So any advice that they wanted to ask for, he was there. So that was a bit of a plus to just still see him there, still seeing him getting involved in bits and bobs, which was good to see. But before I get into this fight, let's get the bantamweight matchups, because we've not seen the bantamweight matchups yet. Let's get rid of that for you so we don't confuse you. So these are the bantamweight matchups now. I did try and predict the bantamweight matchups last week. I got it wrong. So you got Cody at the top, Cody Gibson versus Rico, and then you got Brad Katona versus Timur Valiev. So again, really good matchups. I did say that Timur Valiev would reach the final, and I did say he'd reach the final with Cody, so that could still happen. I don't want to get... Actually, no, we'll give the spoiler away anyway. Obviously, we know... let's get rid of them for you and get the old... lightweight matchup. So obviously we know these two have happened, and the bottom two is going to happen eventually. And let's just put a little tick on there, because we all know Austin Hubbard won the fight. I did predict he would go through to the final, and I did say that Jason Knight would beat Kurt Hollerberg. So again, that could still happen. I'm interested to see. It's a good fight. They both bring it. I just think Jason Knight's going to be too much for Kurt. Anyway, just wanted to get that in there before I do forget, because when I break this fight down, I might forget just towards the end. So I thought I'd just jump that in there, just to sort of they're the matchups that and then obviously Austin that did win. Let's get rid of them, and let's get the fight. Oh, actually, before the fight, I'm jumping ahead. Before the fight, so obviously, as you know, they all have a little have to weigh in, and Roosevelt Roberts did miss weight, which is the first of the season. He did miss weight. It was about half a pound, they were saying. So he had an hour to cut the weight. He didn't want the hour to cut the weight. Let's get it back up. He didn't want the hour to cut the weight. He just cut his hair off. So instead of him cutting the weight, he just decided to cut his hair, and that's that. So fair play to him. Obviously, the game's the game. He cut his hair off. he made weight. So again, at least he got to fight, if you know what I mean, and at least he didn't have to struggle to try and make that weight and try and get it back in that sauna and lose that weight. He just cut the hair off, which was fair enough. Yeah, let's get into the fight then, because it was actually a bit of a funny one, because both matchups before they fought each other were very exciting. Austin Hubbard, when he fought, he brought it. And then obviously we all know Roosevelt Roberts, I think it's the fastest KO in TUF history. I think it was like 5 seconds. Just come out the gates flying. And I did think that these two would go at each other from the get-go, but that was not the case. That really wasn't the case. Obviously, the fight that I was expecting, and the same with Dana. Dana was expecting both of this to be an exciting one. Yeah, it was a bit lacklustrous, really, but again, they've been training with each other for just over 3 weeks now. So again, that may play into it. Before I do get into the fight as well, if you are in the chat, just want to ask you a couple of questions, actually, if you are there. So just to do with the team swapping. So obviously I said that none of Team Chandler's guys wanted to jump over to Team Conor. What would you do if you was in that situation? Because you're ultimately there for yourself, right? You want to go there and you want to win it and you want to get back into the UFC. So does it really matter what team you're on? Again, you could learn something from Conor's team that you didn't learn from Chandler's team. So why don't you go on it with your eyes open and you could learn something from either team? Obviously, if the shoe was on the other foot, where Conor was 7-1 up and some of Conor's guys had to go over, would they have? You just don't know. But again, like I said, you've got to go into these things with your eyes open, and it could lead to better things. Again, these are all different coaches and they all train differently, so you could learn something new with a different team, and then that could play into your advantage going into the matchup. So that's how I would take it. Me personally, I would have taken it with open arms, really. Again, I know there was a lot of animosity between Conor and Chandler's team, but again, you're ultimately there for yourself. None of these Team Chandler coaches are going to be there because you don't necessarily train with them. Yeah, you might go from camp to train with certain training teams, but again, ultimately, you want to win it and you want to go there, and again, you want to be the best of the best, don't you, really? So just thought I'd sneak that in there before I do get into the fight. So, round number 1. Bit of a tentative start. As I said, they've been training with each other for just over 3 weeks now. So, they probably know each other's game. They've both been striking. They've both been grappling with each other. They probably know each other inside out in just over 3 weeks. It is possible that they do know each other's strengths and each other's weaknesses, but they do obviously know most of each other's game. So, I know I did say I expect them both to go all guns blazing in there. There was that tendency at the start where they both just didn't get going, if you understand what I mean. But the story of the first round really was Austin Hubbard's kicks. He did land a lot of leg kicks, which I think definitely secured round number 1 for Austin, as we see here in some of the pictures that I've pulled out. So the bottom picture there is just an inside leg kick that landed on Roosevelt's that did drop into his knees. So again, it's a kind of a big moment in that first round. And I think just leg kicks alone, he managed to win that first round. As I said, it wasn't the most exciting first round, but I think Austin, with the leg kicks and the pressure that he had, I think definitely secured round number 1 for him. But then the tables turned in round number... sorry, not the tables turned. Sorry, we jump into round number 2. Sorry, that's round number 3. Jump into round number 2. Story of the fight was Austin Hubbard he changed his game plan up in round number 2. And this is the only round I can properly say confidently that Austin Hubbard won. Obviously, I said round number 1 was close. Maybe just on leg kicks alone, Austin won. Again, I'm not a judge, but just off watching it, Austin landed a lot of leg kicks in round number 1. But yeah, definitely round 2 was Austin's. Managed to secure a takedown early on and managed to hold Roosevelt Roberts down for the majority of the round, landing elbows, trying to advance. And yeah, Roberts just couldn't get going. So he kind of smothered it in round number 2, and that was definitely the round that I thought that Austin definitely 1,000% won. But then, as I got excited a minute ago, jumping the gun a little bit, jumping onto round number 3. This was Roosevelt Roberts' round, so he managed to pressure Austin up against the cage. Landed, before he got to the cage, landed some good strikes. He does have a great jab. And I did mention before this, when this fight was made, like, if this fight was going to go 3 rounds, it's Austin's all day. Just purely because he's one, he's got that gas tank, and two, he can mix it up better than Roosevelt's. Roberts is more of a striker, and as I said, he does have a great jab, but yeah, he just didn't get going. Only until the 3rd round he kind of got going, because as we see there, he's managed to get him up against the cage, managed to get a trip, and then he managed to stay on top for the majority of the 3rd round. So it was a split decision win, but as I mentioned before, Austin Hubbard does move on to the final. He moves on to the final. As I said, let's get the fighters up. He moves on to the final, and we get the old tick up there. So, if anyone's in the chats, what did we think of the fight? What did we think of the episode? Not much happened in the episode. It was just purely, obviously, the team swapping that was majority of taking up the time of the episode, and the ins and outs of how that was going to plan out. And as I said, Brad Katona could not wait to jump over to Team Conor. And he's back with his team in Kavanagh. So that was, I'm interested to see how that plays out, because obviously Rico's still there. So imagine if Rico and Brad get to the final, who would Conor, where would his loyalties lie? Would it lie in his actual teammate in Brad Katona, or will it lie on his actual only fighter that actually got a victory throughout the whole show in Rico? So I can't wait to kind of break down when we get into the bantamweight matchups and see how they play out. And again, if Brad Katona can get to the final, and if it is against Rico. But let's get into that bantamweight matchup then. There we go. So as I just said, let's get rid of that one as well, because we don't want to confuse you guys. Obviously we know Austin 1 is onto the final. And then the next bantamweight matchup is Brad Katona versus Timur Valiev. And just at the sneak end of the episode, there was a sneak peek of who visited Timur Valiev. So there was a teammate of Timur Valiev's, Big Star. Actually, no, I might as well tell you. So we had the lightweight champion in Islam Makhachev that did visit Timur Valiev. So again, what more of a boost do you want going into a really important fight than whilst you're training, you have Islam Makhachev visit you and just give you that little boost that you need to sort of guide you. But again, I think the Timur Valiev is going to get to the final anyway. But seeing when Islam Makhachev even came onto the show just to sort of be there with Valiev, I think that's going to give him even more of a boost to make it to the final. But again, it wasn't the fight that I picked. I did have Timur against Rico. Just stylistically, I thought that was a little bit of a better matchup for Timur. Against Brad Katona, it's going to be a little bit more difficult, because Brad Katona is a bit relentless. He doesn't really stop. He's a very, very relentless fighter. He's very good everywhere. If I see any kind of ways, a path to victory for Timur, it's going to be that grappling. And it's, can he keep Katona down? And I'm very interested to see this fight. Hopefully this fight's going to be a little bit more exciting than the one we just watched. But I've got high hopes for Timur Valiev. But that's the matchups, and that's all that really happened in these episodes. So who do we think is going to win out of Brad Katona? If you're in the chats, let me know who you think is going to win out of Brad Katona and Timur Valiev. But apart from that, that's about it. There wasn't much that happened. Obviously, Austin Hubbard's advanced to the final, which I did predict. Hopefully, if Jason Knight can win his fight, then that's an all-final that I did predict as well. Let's get rid of them and jump onto the main screen. But again, yeah, a bit of a wild wind week. Obviously, we just come back from UFC London. Obviously, it was good to see you out there. But yeah, jumping back, we've got the breakdown show tomorrow, so definitely stay tuned for the breakdown show. For it should be me and Sai, but again, if you're indeed on the socials, they are in the descriptions below. Definitely go and follow them, just so you can keep up to date with the things that we are posting. And again, necessarily notifications that we do when we go live. Definitely give us a quick cheeky sub, and don't forget to drop a like on the video. And George Mary's in the house. Hope you're doing well, sir. Yes, Austin goes all the way, 100%. I think he's going to go and win the lightweight, the lightweights for the veterans. I think he's so well rounded. The only one that can potentially get there and stop him is Jason Knight, because Jason Knight, he's got that aura about him, hasn't he? But as I said, yeah, definitely join us for a breakdown show tomorrow where we're going to go through the UFC 291 card. It's a great card. Obviously, we've got the main event of Dustin Poirier against Justin Gaethje. Again, for the classic BMF belt. Again, that is on the line. And then in the co-main event, we've got Jambalovich taking on Alex Pereira. So again, cannot wait to break that fight down. And if you can't, unfortunately, make us for the breakdown, don't forget to join us for the watch-along at the weekend. Again, I'll be up in the high with the boys. So yeah, exciting stuff. Great cards to get into, and hopefully see you soon. Thank you. I've been your boy Ash, and take care, guys.